Another day, another demo, and finally, long we have waited. Okay, device outdated, glaive overrated. Xyp9x has demonstrated his best performance in a year, maybe. We'll look at the ratings and decide. The first LAN in a year and a half, and Xyp9x goes crazy. I heard that this guy was on the docket for retirement, that he was thinking about it. I heard there was rumors. Of course, there's rumors in every direction at this point. If you think something has been mentioned as a rumor, you're probably right. Even if you didn't hear a single piece of CSGO news and you guessed it, simple to G2, magisk to complexity, whatever, anything that comes to mind at this point, there's probably an iota of truth to it. Maybe it was in the talks. Maybe it almost happened at one point. Maybe people were discussing it. The money was beginning to change hands. It's hard to say. There's so many things that fall through, so many things that never were going to happen that everyone thought was going to happen. It goes in every direction. But with Xyp9x, I heard maybe it's coming to the end for Zip, right? This past year online, it felt like there was no real place for Xyp9x to stand out. He was a player who he can't do it online. He could only do it on LAN. He's an on-LANer. He's the guy who you never thought about for having, specifically great aim, though I do think his aim is quite underrated. You never really thought about someone, Xyp9x, you never really thought of him as a, specifically good thing, like one of the best anchors on a map or anything like that, even though he is a great B anchor on Inferno. And he's the player who has always had this reputation of being the clutch god, but online, people aren't quite as scared. So it feels like his performance is normalized a little bit, and he wasn't able to stand out in the same way some other players were during the online period. And I think for Xyp9x, what's great is just that right before this player break took place, who knows what kind of storylines would happen if the player break took place before a LAN went down. What if the player break happened and there was no LAN preceding it? You better believe, with how fickle things are, with players and teams and results and all of these things, that there would have been roster changes and things that happened during the player break that wouldn't have happened given the results that we saw in LAN. I think it's been a good thing for especially teams like FaZe and Astralis, who were able to make it into playoffs as two of the three oldest teams in the entire bracket, because some of the questions about whether or not these teams would make changes were kind of circling around them. A lot of 16-14 losses for FaZe. Astralis obviously losing Device, right? These are things that were probably going to have a toll. And you could see after the interview, when Glaive did the interview where they were just about to make finals, they were this close. That last round, that last round they lost was such a good match and a great performance, but this close to actually making finals and really proving something. You could kind of see how much that meant to him to be able to do that, because not only now I think are Astralis competing to prove that they can be good without Device, but I think that's a huge storyline, especially for Glaive, who is widely regarded as the best caller of all time, definitely by results, no question. And for me, it is definitely the best. But first time we're doing a Xyp9x demo on this channel. I'm super excited to do it. TikToks have come into the fray, started to transition from YouTuber to Twitch streamer to, you guessed it, TikToker. I personally don't use TikTok that much because I tried it once and I spent 3 hours on it, and then I got really scared about the idea of using it too much. So I stopped, but I do want to use it, and we've uploaded a couple of TikToks for this last video. So it'll all be a giant feed. You can go to TikToks. Instead of a stream clips channel or a YouTube clips channel, I'll just have a TikTok, and they'll all feed into each other. And basically the only place that my videos are ever edited. So that'll be something to follow. Leave a link for that in the comments. Follow me on TikTok, guys. All right. Virtus Pro versus Astralis. This is the game that Bubsky actually told me to watch when I think I tweeted out that I wanted to know what Xyp9x demo we should watch from Cologne, and Bubsky pointed to this match. part of the reason we're talking about Zippix because we've never talked about him before, and he's also one of those players who he can play a 1v1 1,000 times and play it slightly differently each time. You know, he's the kind of player who he's got that really important touch of creativity that can throw on in a tactful way where it's not an absurd play. He's not going for complete gimmicks. He does optimize in clutches, but the decisions he takes are very fast, and clearly he opens up a lot in those 1vx situations. And that's why I think as Maui Snake said it, in 5v5 Zippix I sleep, in 1vx Zippix woke shit, because he is one of those guys that I think the real magic of him is that you put him in a 1v1 with some of the best players in the world under the bright lights and the cold AC in front of the giant crowd, and he can play it as if it's a deathmatch 1v1, right? He can play it without the pressure, and just that alone allows him to stand so far above the rest sometimes, especially when it comes to consistency in 1vx's, some of the best all-time stats in terms of clutches. But yeah, in this past year, again, online, everybody's super confident, less motivation playing online, more games versus worse opponents getting better, all of that stuff. And no coincidence for me that, you know, Cologne comes back in 1.07 rating over the event, third through fourth, could have been first through second. A good event. The last comparable event was the Blast Global Final. This was online. Teams are obviously very good still. I believe Navi wins this event. This is plus 18, but less maps. And so comparable rating over less maps. This was will be one of the biggest events for the year for the quality of competition, plus extra stress for first LAN back. 13 maps overall, really, really strong maps. And honestly, Astralis just don't win without him. If you watch these games, you would have known right away when he was anchoring B-side overpass, when he's playing B-side Inferno. They would not have won without Zippix and his AUG. And I can't remember if he used his AUG at that much on B-side Inferno, but we're gonna find out today. Going all the way back, I think his last better event would have been the RMR event, the European RMR 24 matches played. Got some big ratings here. This was way back in 2020, but yeah, a lull. The eyes have come off Zippix. Now we're here to look at Zippix. 1680 by 1050, 1610. Black bars. I'm not going to be watching on black bars. Maybe you could just put blinders on the side of your face if you'd like to enjoy this video in black bars. I'm not going to do it because it messes up the camera and the whole screen. There's less real estate for everything, so I'm not going to do it. But just so you know, 1680 by 1050. I'm a 1610 user myself. Not black bars for me. Let me grab this Bob before we go in. Oh, shoot. I screwed the pooch on this one. A little bit of news before we get started. Should we save this for a next one? No, I'm going to give a lukewarm take about this. So Hunden decides not to extend with Heroic. He says, I wish to begin a new chapter of my career. Now, there's also another rumor is that Hunden would be going to replace Zonic at Astralis, and that Zonic is leaving the team, and he has expressed interest in looking at other teams and stuff like that. We talked about that a little bit in the last video, I think. My only take on that is that could be a tactic by Zonic to try to get the most money possible from Astralis. Maybe he doesn't really want to leave. Maybe he really does want to look at other things. If Hunden's coming in or not, I have no idea. What's going to happen next for Hunden, I have no idea. But today, he's commented on some allegations that he has leaked strats to other teams, which is kind of a weird thing to hear, because obviously this is kind of like the last thing Hunden needs after the whole coaching bug thing. So, okay, recent rumors claim that I have shared Heroic strat book. This I can categorically deny. I have the biggest respect for Heroic, and I would not want to harm the team in any way or negatively affect them. I would just say, like, you know, if you're coaching a team, I mean, there really doesn't seem like there's a lot of incentive for you to fuck over your own team by, like, sharing strats. So at face value, I am a little bit hesitant to just believe that is the case. And I kind of understand, you know, how, like, why he would have a case to deny this. But then he says, the material I have shared is anti-strat material of opponents. This material was shared with colleagues from other teams in the context of sparring. Knowledge sharing is essential for me as a coach in respect to staying in the loop and developing. At no point in this time has Heroic's own tactics been shared or discussed. Okay, so for this, again, sometimes it's going to be conjecture, and Hundin and the people he talked to and God are the only people that really know exactly what happened here. But we do know this is getting reported on because apparently it's some issue, or like it's being used against him or something like that. I kind of find it strange that anti-stratting is not considered important material to keep private. But I also do understand knowledge sharing. Like, it wouldn't be weird for me to talk to other IGLs, for example, if I was playing in a season against a team that I normally scrim with or that I'm not playing against anymore, and share. And get some knowledge from them and share and discuss ideas and stuff like that, especially if it's not incredibly pertinent stuff. But I would also feel like anti-stratting is probably some of the most sensitive information you could have as the coach of a team, where I feel like you would want that to be unknown for as long as possible so that people keep making the same mistakes, and that you wouldn't want to disseminate that information. But that's where I don't want to read too much into it, because I don't know exactly how bad it was. I don't know if there's somebody out here to get him. I don't know if I don't know how serious it was. Like, what if he was like, yeah, FaZe like to rush Dust 2 on long? You know what I mean? Like, it might not be that serious. I don't know. So I don't want to read too much into that. But it's a little bit strange, so I thought I'd bring this up. I don't know. That's my take. I don't know. PGL major update. This was an interesting situation because the PGL major was supposed to take place in Stockholm originally. But then Sweden said Dota is not an elite sport. Obviously, they've never played Dota. My hands be hurting from all these black holes. But apparently Counter-Strike is. So there is a chance that they can do the major in Sweden. But this is Sweden's fault, okay? Let's not blame anybody, okay? Sweden is at fault here. They made things complicated. Their government got upended. They're in a bad spot. Now they're turning their back on esports. They had the NIP burger in 2012. They had Shiro win 200 grand in IKEA Marcus in 2021. And they turned their back on esports when it matters the most. They're about to get the international and CSGO major. They could be the back-to-back. And they decided to mess things up. So if PGL is going to Romania, I do not blame them, because they've got 3 months to set up an event that they will definitely lose money setting up. That will be incredibly complicated to do, not only because it's a major, but also because of COVID restrictions and generally time restrictions. They'll probably be able to set up a better event in Romania, easier, especially if there are any issues at all. So if this ends up going back to Romania, but it's good to see that they still want to try to make this possible in Sweden if possible, because that's the original, that was the original thing. It's been a long time since Sweden's got a major, but they're keeping people updated, so that's good. You can read more on that from the CSGO Twitter account tweeted out. Dreams and Nightmares. Quick $1 million. Hey, if you're an artist out there and you want to make 100 grand, you can submit some art in this to become a skin. You get a weapon finish in the game, you get 100 grand. Cold, hard PayPal. Okay? Right to your account, I'm sure. They're good for it. I believe them. They say they'll give you 100 grand. I bet it's going to be 100 grand on the dot. You like making skins. You're an artist. This is your job. You want to contribute. Now there's a way to submit. Here's your challenge. Dreams and Nightmares. Make a flying space octopus skin, MP9. And submit it to the Dreams and Nightmares CSGO art contest today. I really screwed up by talking about Zipix first. Let's get into the demo. We're here to watch Zipix on the map known as Inferno, a map that was probably the hardest of all the maps to set a win record on. I think Astralis had a LAN record of like 13 Inferno wins in a row, something absurd at peak CSGO times where everyone was nuts and looking at all their demos and stuff. They were owning on this map. Zipix is a huge part of their wins here. So here are the flashes to deny the rush. The first flash the car flash, and then a second flash that goes a bit deeper with a peek from Astralis. And here's a situation where I love to see where the tactic doesn't work, but there's also no casualties. And in some way, I mean, they're the team who comes away with positional compensation. They get the C down banana for a second. They know the T's haven't rushed yet. So CTs actually get some value out of this. So now you're in a position with Glaive and Zipix. Zipix holding a smoke while Glaive is taking some contact. And one of the scariest parts about banana is once you have car controls, turning that corner and getting into the site is very, very easy. So you have to be really prepared to react, especially on a pistol round where it's basically like a whole bunch of homeless guys running at you, right? Like, you do not want to fight homeless guys because they got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And when you have a pistol round where nobody's got any cash, they can't afford good weapons and good utility, they're going to do some crazy shit. So it's important to be prepared at every single second of the round, especially in situations like this. But it looks like the round comes towards A, and because Glaive held on to information so aggressively on banana, they have a nice fast rotation. Of course, it's obviously quite unlikely that Zipix will be able to win, even the clutch minister himself. But you can see why the idea behind getting information on banana possible and what that means for the rotations for both Glaive and for Zipix. Getting into a nice spot in the site, right? If you go too slow, then you get stuck behind the moto smoke and you're in full retake. You go fast and you get banana control. You get a nice mid flank as well as a player who can get into the site, sit on cold, get into a cheeky angle. They didn't expect you to get in quickly. And already on this round, of course, Astralis have gotten a kill. And now Zipix will start to float. So there is, like, on Dust 2, the one comparison beyond Dust 2, there is the way to explain Dust 2. One of the best gambles you take on Dust 2, or fake strats that you use that happens almost all the time, is faking long control into running out mid, okay, on the T side. So a good example of a similar example of that on Inferno is because banana sometimes requires 3 people to throw nades, take control of it, whatever, feign presence. If it's the round that the CTs leave archway open, because the arch guy is the one who's going to be the third man over a B helping with nades, then Ts will fake banana control and run up mid and go arch. So we see Zipix floating back towards arch, and they're just hoping, and everybody knows this is a game that both teams play, that everyone plays at this level. So it's not that serious, but Zipix is coming back and being careful about the idea that they don't do anything banana. Maybe they're trying to walk over towards arch. I actually kind of like the way Zipix just threw this smoke down. I don't know if it supports anybody else, but it allows him to, not get caught off by someone walking up towards the hay cart while he's taking a peek on arch, and he can get nice and comfy in the site. No potential threats right now, but it feels like the A wrap or a lane hit is coming. They might send one arch in this position, but it might just be the full arch wrap. It looks at the bombs on the back of a lane player, yeah. So they're focusing down on this. But, yep, the rotations are here. Dupree doing a hell of a job from pit. That's free. Oh, free for Magix, actually. I keep saying Magix. Magiska. So hard. It's so hard for me to say for some reason. Because it's Magix. And then when I'm casting Magix from Spirit, I'm calling him Magisk consistently. It makes absolutely no sense. So already a couple of great rounds with the rotations. What I'm hoping to see here, number one, is the AUG, because I think honestly, Zipix was scoring huge points with the AUG at IEM Cologne. He was melting people like you guessed it, a cheese string in the microwave. When he was sitting on the back of overpass B site and players were coming out of overpass tunnels, he was melting them down. And the same thing, I think he did this on Inferno, but I can't remember for sure, so we'll see in this game. Look, another early rotation out, actually. To reinforce and set up at arch. So, honestly, I think we don't have any ops. I don't know if we have an op on the round here for Astralis, but we've got significant control. So Dupree is looking at Boiler, the position he attacks a lot on T side. He's keeping an eye on it. Zipix has this kind of flat angle. It serves kind of as an off angle sometimes because people will crouch walk out and try to clear under the porch. So that in that way it looks like a regular angle, but in some ways it does serve as an off angle. And now as he starts to get nervous, actually with that timing, just throw that smoke down on mid and the double Molotov kill in the halls. That was a good example of like there's a certain point of the round where it's like the last thing you want is to throw the utility too late and they've already burned so much time off the clock. Why not? But there was really no counterplay there for VP because of the amount of map control they got so quickly. Now Zipix gets this trade frag on Banana, and he has very good vision over top of this Molotov, so he'll be able to guarantee that there are or aren't people there. Glaive can refresh the spot. I'm sure it's calmed here that damage has been done. Yeah, Zipix did a whole lot. Glaive trades him out, and they do a good job tethering off each other to approach that properly. Not strafing in front of each other, not overcommitting, but just letting one player be annoying and then letting the next player be annoying. And so the other thing that I feel like for me is a signature position for Zipix playing on Inferno, at least when I remember it, is him playing on top of the second oranges. I feel like for me, Zipix playing the top of second oranges is like the most reliable player in that spot. And I don't know if we'll see it in this game or not, because some things have changed around for Astralis. So I am here to watch and see what, if anything's changed in specific or what, considering their new circumstances. So in this spot, okay, people always ask this. All right, they always ask, why does the guy on flower pots never get pre-fired? Why does he never die? Why does he always get 2 kills? Why does everyone forget about him? Part of the reason is because you can't always clear it. Okay, it's a probabilities game. The CTs have an advantage on the crossfire. They have less players on the site, but they have the advantage of getting off the first bullet if they pick a position that won't be cleared. So there's a number of things. It's an odds game. Once every few rounds, you're going to have this boost. Maybe you wouldn't expect it 2 rounds in a row. Maybe you wouldn't expect it versus an eco. Maybe you wouldn't expect it, every 3 rounds, depending on the team you're playing. Sometimes they're not getting cleared because it's a read by the other team. Sometimes you're not getting cleared because you don't have the resources. Sometimes you're not getting cleared because your attention is going towards quad, or you feel like people play in the back corner beside quad a lot, or boosted on quad. So right there, you're going to have to expose yourself to be able to clear it. Or you think they're going to hold that sick angle in front of second oranges, and you can't, you don't want to clear CT. So your entry fragger has to take a educated guess as to where he thinks the attention is going to be drawn. And sometimes you can turn and spam, and sometimes you can pre-fire, and sometimes people will get hard cleared. But this is why sometimes people get away with this way too often. Now here's a spot. Well, they've created some space now, so maybe you're worried if you're Zipix, but even here, they're assuming still one person could be backside, and that's even with Glaive dead. But here's a spot where they barely had anything that they could possibly do. They couldn't find the other B player. And there's a spot. So I would say don't be too surprised when you see at a pro level that people are getting kills boosted up on flower pots really consistently. Sometimes it's silly, but at the same time, it's not something that you can spend all your attention towards every single time you're entering onto the B site. And that's just the way it is. That's just the nature of the crossfires that exist on the site. It's just a very powerful thing to throw in there. Your Kinder dead, coming up onto Banana. It looked like in the after image flash that we have a pistol running up. In the extra rotation, here's another position where Arch is open, but it's 5v4 plus pistols. They're not exactly worried about, an R trap through B. Plus they can spark from far back. They have a double pit set up on A. That's a very, very strong way to defend. But Sanji gets the kill inside of CT. And this throws things slightly into question, right? They have now they're maybe a little bit scared, but a double pit setup is so strong in this position. I really don't expect this to fall apart. Now they're smoking con, and we'll see how this angle works for Zipix. The cool part about the angle Zipix was just in was that he can't stand there unless Glaive is kind of fighting Banana. So always be on the lookout for angles like that, because those angles won't get cleared as easily. I'm kind of surprised to see them fight like this. They had Zipix trade places with Glaive. I don't know. I guess I feel like Glaive could have just fought Banana like he was doing, and Zipix could have taken care of CT. Clearly, the split was coming, and now it looks like Virtus.pro have a chance in the round. Looked like a bit of a flub to me. And that is totally spammable, by the way. Make sure you use that when you're coming up on your entry pathing, trying to clear into the site. Bubsky up front. This will be a tough one. Wow, nice headshot on Sanji, but the instantaneous trade, impossible to lose if you play it even slightly correctly. So it's got more of the big style of holding B with some of the nades from the site deep onto Banana, not actually playing down onto Car. And I used to get really anal about the idea of teams giving up Banana control all the time, but it's becoming more and more. It's just becoming more and more common to. I'd say a reference game would be Liquid. I actually think Liquid showed a good way to play B without any Banana control versus Mouse Sports, where Stewie was getting a kill almost every single time versus Mouse Sports on the B site. Now it's still Inferno, okay? You can still have nasty executes that come on a B, and then it's just a nightmare to sit there and hold. You either get flash or you die Molotovs, or you have no place to stand or whatever. So there needs to be some kind of game of trying to draw out resources a little bit, or fake that like you're taking Banana control, or actually take it once in a while, so that teams don't have infinite resources when they come and they just exec B every round with sick, perfect execs. Or you overstack in this way. But this kind of style of CS that Na'Vi was doing a lot more for the past few years already, where they were just gamble stacking right at the beginning of the round, is becoming more common. Gambit's doing it a lot. We saw Liquid doing it like crazy. Straws are doing it a lot in this game. So I guess even as me, someone's watching who I was always super uppity about teams not taking advantage of Banana control as much as possible. There's just a lot of volatility involved in sometimes taking that control, and the way that the game's evolving, it's more leaning towards more gamble stacky, read-based, fake control, I guess, meta, where a lot of people are looking as the best option to try to make the most of a site hold. Don't overcommit and try to be too adamant about getting deep control really quickly. And pick your battles, basically, in this sense. And there are some examples of good ways to make it work that we see in current day pro level CS, but haven't looked at all the examples. Here's the orange's flash that Zipix throws. Delays allows him to throw his smoke. He's playing very calmly in this position. Glaive baiting a little bit of attention. I feel like someone might run through this, but wow, you can see how much this actually. That's crazy. Akinder just gifted himself off for Sandy to go for the trade. You think that was kind of backwards? That smoke. I mean, the protocols here for Astralis are everything. They made Virtus.pro look so dumb. That flash was perfectly well timed with Glaive's spray. There was no running forward. They all ate it, and then Zipix actually committing out with that peek to throw that smoke down on that timing was beautiful. It looked really calm, but honestly, Virtus.pro looked super foolish, and it looked like they missed some great opening, when in reality, I mean, I think Astralis played that very well. They gave them no way to just run through after that first smoke was coming out. And I think, honestly, one of the biggest troubles with Virtus.pro is when they cut noise completely, and sometimes, they can be hard to read, but at the same time, they sometimes never give themselves an option to change their strat, go back to the other site, and sometimes they just look silly like that, like they lose to one smoke. But that's perfectly played by Astralis. First, Glaive shooting a little bit along with Zip's flash, so they eat it. And then Zip actually peeking out in front of the oranges. It's braver than it looks to peek out in front of the oranges like that to throw that smoke down. Considering you can see the immediacy of the situation, Virtus.pro probably coming through fast. And here might be another exec. And this, wow, Zipix dropping down from above with the incendiary down on the top of Banana. Look at the confidence in this play. My God, it's actually unreal the way he takes this into his own hands, this whole situation. And that's the beauty of Zip. Like, this Kerrigan was talking about when we came on Blast Overtime. He's talking about Olaf. He's like, you look at Olaf play, and it's not super flashy and this and that. And I think it used to be a little bit more flashy back on Fnatic. He had like a lot of aggressive positions, but on phase when he's played, he's taken more of a backseat role. He's not super aggressive on T sides or anything. And he basically just said, like, you look at Olaf play and he's just always making the correct decision, just like a good decision that's correct. And it's not always a highlight maneuver. And where, you know, I guess Xyp9x shines, like, he's a rock in that sense. He is always taking a very good decision, the simple one, quickly, or the right time. And then where he shines, I think, the most is in the clutch. And we'll see if you have any rounds like that. But overall, as a player, he shined a lot just because it was LAN, I think. Just able to stand out by, you know, taking a series correct decisions. And I really do think his aim is kind of underrated. Like, I feel like a lot of Danish players don't have... They don't have that very flicky style of aim like some French players, like Xantares, like Shroud. Like, there's like a certain choppy, flicky kind of aim that I feel like you don't see on as many Danish players. They have more like a smoother style of aim, I would say. The CS is a little bit, not slow-paced, but slower-paced. And the aim is a bit smoother overall, I think, in general. Though everyone's style a little bit different. Like, there's Gad, if you guys remember from North, or if you're very new, ex-Hyenas, who had more of a Shroudy, choppy, Julienning style aim. But it's definitely, I think, less common amongst the Danish pros that I can think of. And Astralis were always a team that never really stood out in that regard with their style of aim, the flash. But the crispiness is there. I mean, they are able to kill people who have incredible aim very quickly. And Xyp9x, when he's on his sight holds, I mean, the timing windows are still just as small for Astralis as they are for everyone else. And they have huge potential to get the kills they need. Another interesting thing, actually, Maui mentioned to me is, like, Sanji, he feels like has really insane headshot aim, or he has really insane first bullet accuracy, but his spray sometimes fails him. And I actually thought that was so interesting because he's got stats like one of the highest HSPs amongst pros, but then, yeah, the stats don't totally reflect it. Partly because of his role, but I think it's true also partly because he just, like, all of those regular kills that he needs to get, he sometimes struggles with. Okay, so they're going to try to come through this full force. You can see the nades are definitely coming through this now. And Xyp9x just gets cleared. He totally eats that flash, man. They actually ripped the kitchen sink out of the pipes and threw it out the window. Like, they actually threw everything in the kitchen. That was a horrible way to say that. They actually threw everything in the kitchen sink at that execute. That was a bit rambunctious. Like, that wasn't like the most perfect set exec. They were like, we got to kill, let's go. Disco M4's back. Okay. Always paying attention for any kind of grenades that we see on certain timings with their different setups. And we see with Astralis, the way that they've played it, we've had a new setup almost every single time so far. Now the op is involved over here on B. This is just the Coffin's flash for when you go for a re-aggression at the top of Banana, it lands so that it blinds everybody around the car. You can't really dodge it. You just... Xyp9x's job is to wait for Glaive to say, I'm ready. When he gets the feeling of the timing, they throw. Usually the player pushing is the one who calls, of course. And Glaive is standing close. He might get some audio information. He may not. And they actually cut noise and turn the corner quickly, and Glaive ends up going down. They wanted to go for the play. The flash does hold off this execute a little bit. And now 50 seconds up. An interesting decision. Astralis actually rotate out of B. And here's a spot where they have low info. So they're really, in my opinion, they're making kind of a gamble read here. 40 seconds up. Virtus.pro have left the site. They're not going to double back. And the rotations come over. And that's a spray in between default and the site that ends up making this a 2v2. Always trust yourself when it comes to clearing angles. Xyp9x could not see that at all. He didn't hear anything from that specific point. He literally just trusted himself and remembered that he can hit that. I saw, wow, that was insane because Magic's got the, so we're watching the POV, fake POV demo, but we get Xyp9x's radar, of course. So you can see from there that that player did not show up on radar until Magic's peek out of the halls. So that gave Xyp9x the perfect opportunity to peek. And you see he was paying attention to his radar. That was good. Wow. Okay. Very nice. There it is. Clutch God Zipix. He knows what you're going to do hours before you do it. He knows what your next breakfast is. You know, you're eating chia pudding for breakfast. He's already got it in the fridge. Very, very strong demo so far, actually. Honestly, the last we watched the Lucky demo was a little bit... wasn't great. Some of the demos we watched recently, not so good. Oof. Here's not such a great round. Just a straight-up car molly with a couple of nades, kill Zipix. Let's see, for the sake of it, we're wrapping up the half. I'm actually curious about what the adjustment's going to look like. Zipix hasn't died first in any of the rounds so far, I don't think. So this might be fun to watch. The only danger here is if someone is close up on the half wall and walked up, and so it's actually important that Glaive is spotting a little bit, and of course, it's the whole point of the boost is try to come out with this angle when they don't realize it. He could die, but this is a nice kind of in-between risk, right? Like, it's a nice way to like hold some info. Yeah, that's a problem. There was a guy close up on the half wall. The flash is perfect, and they got decimated. All right, let's move on to the next one. Nice little tactic. Why not throw it in there, see if it works? Sometimes teams will make a mistake. Not this round. And he was also trying to spot for someone kind of doing that play, but you have moments where you're not seeing anything. So that's the name of the game. You can't get too upset at yourself when you try something like that and it doesn't work. Doesn't mean it's a bad move, right? Can't be outcome oriented. Boost up into CT. They smoke and fall back. And I think they specifically run just because it's like, oh, let's just make it seem like we're totally leaving. Which they are, but they also are leaving somebody here. And it may or may not have an impact, but it's just one of those small things you could do on ecos, like, why not do it? Oh, now you probably want to get out of there. His chance come and gone to find that kill. And here's another position where this is really important. You know, you should be spamming where if they know where you are and you have the chance to get free spam damage off, shoot on a cross, shoot with the timing, you know, try to not play reactively, right? Like, try to think you know what they're going to do. They're about to do it. And then if a smoke's in your face or not, that shouldn't make a difference. You know, go for that same spam you would go for if the smoke wasn't there. That same pre-fire. Try to, like, always visualize because, like, most of the rounds, you've seen them already at one time or another in your CSGO career, no matter what level you're playing at. People are doing some of the similar things. And honestly, what's going to make the difference between you being like a good player and a really good player and losing to really good players or beating really good players is like trusting your feeling when it comes to when you spam. Getting a little bit of damage off through the smoke will help for that retake, whether you realize it or not. Going for a pre-fire means that you might not die because you're not getting pre-fired, you know. Doing just a bit more. So they lay the trap here. It's a honeypot up on B. They put a lot of players down. And another situation around the 40-second mark, they see that a Virtus Pro evacuate, and they're just going to go for the hard rotate out. Always good to gamble. If this round slows down at all, then they might go back, but we see the bomb down. Well, bomb out, excuse me, out in front of default. I don't know if it got away. Ooh, it looks like it might have. Now they have got to go back. The reason Virtus Pro would want to stay in this position is because they would want to protect the guns, plus they already have made some progress, but they hadn't crossed into the site, and it's a fine rotation here. It makes a lot of sense. Magisk gets a kill on the cross, and the bomb, I think it was fake planted and then fully planted, and Zip just runs him down. Worth a shot. Last round of the half. Og is out, finally! We haven't seen the second Orange's angle once so far in this demo. It's been mostly chilling around first. And honestly, a few more rotations than I expected to see. Again, haven't watched the Zipix demo on this channel. Even though it's kind of one of those players where I like, when I made the channel or started doing the demo reviews, Zipix is like the top of the list, right? But then you're just like, I could get to it any time, and then you end up never doing it. It's pretty much what happened. And then Simple gets like top frags every other day, and then there's no room to do any other demos. We got to it finally. Long we have waited. Let's see what happens. No flash here for Glaive. This is. I wonder if this works. How well this works. Okay, not too well, but they also have a huge numbers advantage. So playing two one and done positions basically. Well, Zipic's not a one and done position, but two positions where they have a decent chance to get one kill. Glaive has a great chance to get damage off top of sandbags. That's awesome. And that's it. That was a really strong demo. It was a lot of what I expected. Some good decisions, good shots, a lot of confidence. Here to applaud Zipix for having such a good LAN back. Hope that he sticks around. A smart player to learn from, and I think, yeah, a guy who I feel like has that fear aura when it comes to LAN. And also, one of the things about him is the fact that he is so good specifically, I think, because he can make the same decision no matter what the pressure. I think that's the big thing, right? He's not simple, right? He's not simple, but in some ways, he kind of can have the same effect, right? He can play the 1v1 like there's no spotlight on him, and there's no pressure, there's no crowd. And when you see that, and you see a player like that can slow down a moment, and then just make every decision as if he were to do it sitting at home on a server by himself, you know they're special. That's what makes Zipix special to me, at least. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Follow me on TikTok, like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you back here for another demo very shortly.